Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of 10 Questions, where we explore the stories, beliefs, and passions of remarkable individuals. I'm your host, Aaron O'Shea, founder of Versed Well, where faith and function intersect. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Max Komes, a mental health counselor, author of the Substack Clarity. Max brings a unique perspective on personal growth, clarity, and connection, and I'm excited to dive into his stories and insights. So without further ado, let's jump into 10 questions. You ready, Max?
Let's do it, Aaron. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me. Can you share a little bit about your journey, Max, and what led you to become a mental health counselor?
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess for that, the first thing that I want to say is that I think that everybody has a unique purpose, right? And I think that's whether it's the family that we're brought up in or our unique circumstances or the experiences that we go throughout our lives, something shapes us to have a unique sort of destiny, so to speak, or a unique set of traits, attributes, skills, values that lead us to be really good at something. And for me, I was always really good at listening and being very detail oriented and observing the world around me. I had 3 older sisters. I was the youngest of the 4 children. So I was a little bit more empathetic as a child. I was a little bit more detail oriented again. And it gave me a very unique perspective of the world. So I was able to sit back and observe a lot, really kind of study human psychology in my child brain through that observation and really get to know people's stories from that listening point of view. It was very natural to me. And then finally, when I went to college later on, this was way later in my life, obviously, I didn't go to college as a child.
Yeah. Not one of those prodigies.
Unfortunately not. Yeah. No, it was the exact opposite, actually. I struggled through school.
Okay.
And I can't believe I actually got a master's degree. I always thought I was dumb through school because I was a little bit more sensitive. Again, I was very good at detail-oriented stuff, drawing, painting.
The arts.
Yeah. But I wasn't too good at cognitive learning. Eventually, I had to challenge myself to learn how to learn and learn how to think. And this is a totally different story here. But
That's fine.
I had ADHD when I was about in 3rd grade or so. And I was diagnosed. My parents put me on a low dose of Concerta is what it was. And I took that through most of my grade school years. And with that, eventually I didn't want to take that for my entire life. I had to figure out how to actually learn for myself, think for myself, and concentrate on my own away from the medication. And that was another one of those things that kind of made me bridge into the mental health field, because as I learned, okay, I don't actually need the medication. I can train my brain to think and concentrate through things like meditation exercise. I did a lot of guided meditations and intentional focus. And I studied a little bit into neuroplasticity and psychology in my later teens. Those things really made me realize I can actually change my own brain. Anybody can.
Yeah. Neuroplasticity.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. So those were early experiences that really made me realize I love psychology. I have the personality for therapy. And then when I went off to college, I went down the route originally of healthcare. I focused on the route of becoming a doctor, pre-med, maybe going to nursing school, something in that route. And I ended up settling on the field of radiation therapy and oncology. And I was training to be a radiation therapist. I thought that was the way to really heal people and use my empathetic quality that I had as a young man. And I thought that was the way to go.
Yeah.
And what I saw was a very kind of messed up medical system that wasn't the way to heal people from what I saw. But what I did see working was when we were actually sitting down and listening to our clients and genuinely being with them.
Sitting with them.
Yes, genuinely. That's what was a truly healing experience for them. So that made me eventually go further down the route of counseling. It wasn't the medications. It wasn't maybe mainstream medicine, but there was something about true, genuine human connection, especially through therapy, that allowed these people to heal.
Those other things, the medication and the school, kind of got you there. They were stepping stones.
Yeah, all of those influences definitely inspired the eventual course to therapy.
Nice. Let's talk a little bit about your Substack publication. What inspired you to start Clarity, and what do you hope readers take away from that publication?
Yeah, I call my blog or newsletter post Clarity Sanctuary, and the main headline is just clarity. The tagline is Clarity Sanctuary. And my whole idea behind that is, number one, for all of my clients, I wanted to put out a resource for them that they could go to outside of the counseling session. So if we were talking about something in the session, I would start writing an article about it, a blog about it, and I would upload that to that blog site, and they would have resources on ADHD, on depression, on anxiety, and it would be something that they could look at even outside of these sessions. So that was one thing that I wanted to do. Another thing, it was an outlet that allowed me to articulate myself a little bit better and truly learn psychology on a deeper level. And then the third thing I think was, and this is the main theme of Clarity Sanctuary, number one, I really liked the flow of words and the rhythm of those two words together. And it has this rhythm to it that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And the idea is, okay, we live in a world that's maybe rapidly changing. Or not maybe, it is rapidly
that's
changing.
An understatement.
So we have artificial intelligence coming in. Economically, the world is changing rapidly. Ecologically, culturally, everything's shifting very fast. So within that, I think there's a lot of confusion. And that's why mental health rates or mental illness is skyrocketing. We have depressions and anxieties and ADHD.
Completely agree.
So in turn, what's the opposite of confusion? People are seeking clarity in some way, right? So my whole thing behind Clarity Sanctuary is this is a sanctuary amidst the confusion of life. Let's have these conversations these deeper conversations that are true and genuine, and connecting with one another and asking the bigger questions of life. Why are we here? Who are we? Where are we going? And why does all of it matter? And that's what I really wanted to do with that space. And not only as a resource for people, but it's also a community spot. So people can connect with each other and really have those deep conversations together.
Nice. And sorry about that, getting the name wrong. That was on me, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it was just Clarity. So Clarity Sanctuary.
No, it is. The main headline is Clarity.
Okay.
But the tagline up at the top that I put it under is Clarity Sanctuary.
Okay. All right. How does your belief system shape the way you approach mental health counseling?
I've got to be careful about that one, especially in my sessions, because the way my ideal is to allow every client to be exactly how they are, regardless of my beliefs. It's not about what I believe. It's about how the patient is, how the client is, where they're at, what they're going through, and how it can serve them in that time.
Okay.
And in that, I have to be cautious of my own biases. Yeah. And of course, I do have my own values, my own core belief system. But for a moment in that counseling session, I try to put that aside and just focus on who is this person and what do they want to be?
Okay.
Who do they want to transform themselves into? What do they want to heal from? Those types of questions.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to shift the focus to them as opposed to your biasy recognition. Definitely very important.
And that's not to say that I don't have my own core belief system or value system, and I do. And that's more of a holistic orientation, right? That's based in the connections between systems. The mind is connected to the body is connected to the family is connected to the society. We have to look at all these different aspects of life to understand that unique individual. Mm-hmm. This is the biopsychosocial approach in psychology, right?
Okay.
And even aside from that, maybe mindfulness. I value mindfulness and meditation and bringing that into my sessions. And I'm not going to impose that on any of my clients. It's truly what they need at that time.
Makes sense. Are there any pivotal experiences, Max, or moments that solidified that current worldview that you just explained?
Yeah. Especially when I worked in hospice care in the cancer department.
Okay.
It goes back to why I went into therapy or became a therapist. And also, I'm not a fully licensed therapist, right? I have my master's degree in mental health counseling, but my current label is counseling intern. So I have to go through this training to become a fully licensed therapist. as a disclaimer. But when I worked in oncology and hospice, I remember one story specifically where it was a very rushed department. We were seeing about 40 during the day, and there was one lady that I was walking back to her room. I was wheeling her gurney down the hallway. We were going to her room, and I finally had the opportunity to actually sit with her. And this was one of those situations. She had this stage 4 terminal cancer in a very painful area of the body. And every time we moved her to the treatment table, she would be in pain and was flinching and biting down, trying not to express pain. It was painful for everybody involved, and it broke our heart every time we had to treat her. But in this scenario, I actually got to sit down with her for a minute and get to hear her story. And in that moment, she actually opened up, you know. In treatment, you don't get to hear the patient's stories, but in this moment, she's like, she says, I'm scared. I'm dying. I don't know what life's going to be like from here on out. I don't know how long I'm going to live. I don't know what death is. Am I going somewhere? Is heaven a thing? These are major existential questions pouring out of her.
It sounds like an intense experience for everybody involved.
Very. And then she talks about her past and how she got there and the things that she regrets and her wishes and desires, all of these big questions. And all I could do was sit there and listen. And it wasn't sad for me. It was more like, wow, this woman truly trusts me with her feelings, and I'm honored. And it was a beautiful moment. There was a potency to it. It was one of those flow moments where time slowed down, and she just was able to express all of this pain. And at the end of all of it, it just seemed like she was lighter. And something kind of clicked in my head after that. I'm like, that's what healing actually is.
Yeah, like you just experienced it in real time.
That's what healing was. It wasn't about the radiation or the chemotherapy or any of the medications she was on. It was about the genuine connection that I had with her, and that she was able to actually express all these pains and concerns. And with that, she was able to physically relax and relieve some of her own pain. And I'm not saying I have the cure for any of this stuff, but it was amazing to me that I actually saw something that looked like healing right in front of my eyes.
Well, it sounds like she wasn't looking for a cure.
No.
She was looking for an ear or two. You know, that's it. Someone to listen, like you, seems to be the premise of what you're talking about here.
Very much. That was one of the pivotal moments, I think, that kind of made me go down the route of counseling again. I knew that healing was a potent force. And in the words of Carl Rogers, he was a humanistic psychologist from Wisconsin. And he says something like, listening is one of the most rare of the rarest jewels in the world. Or it's more rare than the rarest jewels in the world. I'm paraphrasing here. Yeah. But it's not too often that someone genuinely gets to listen to us, or we experience someone genuinely listening to us. It's very rare. And I'd like to see that change. We need to shift that so we actually listen to each other and get to know each other and truly connect and heal in these ways, like that woman did in the cancer department. Mm-hmm. Is this making sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think you answered that question very well. What challenges, Max, have you faced in your work as a mental health counselor, and how have you overcome them, or how are you overcoming them?
I think the biggest challenge that I face during my sessions often is allowing the patient to take their course, or allowing that person to take their course, and not push them in a certain direction. Mm-hmm. That they're going to go down their route of healing at their own pace, mm-hmm. in their own time. And I have to be along for the journey. It's not about me saying this is the way to go, or you have to be not depressed on this date.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so silly to think that
no expectations, really.
No. To have maybe an end goal or an ideal, but know that it's going to be a process of back and forth and up and down, and it's not going to be a linear thing.
It's going to be messy.
It will. Yeah. And sometimes people get worse before they get better because they're diving into these shadow aspects of themselves that they've never actually looked at before. Right. It's very harsh for them. So they might get more depressed before they open up and realize, oh, that was the stuff that was holding me back. Yeah. And I can use that and transmute it to something that's going to empower me.
Okay.
And that takes time. It takes a lot of time. So to go back to your question, sometimes I want to push it a little bit. Like, come on, let's make progress. I see your potential. Instead of being patient and allowing them to go at their own pace.
And it all depends, I'm sure, on the day, the patient, how you're going to approach that. But more of like, instead of looking at it as like leading or guiding, it's more of like holding their hand to some extent.
Yeah.
Just being with them kind of at the same level, meeting them where they are, I guess.
It goes back to listening. Yeah. Can I genuinely be here for you and offer an open healing space where you can be fully yourself and express things to me or the space where you may have never expressed before? Or express things that you may have never expressed before. Okay. And that's very healing for people, just to get it off their chest, so to speak.
I agree. For me personally, that's definitely the case. Now, Max, do you see a connection between your counseling work and the themes that you explore on Clarity Sanctuary?
Yeah, like I said, I try to bring the themes that I see in counseling and channel them into the blog sometimes. So if someone's struggling with ADHD, maybe I do a write-up on what is actually the cause of ADHD and what's going on in the brain. And then how can maybe a personal story from the past, and how can we move towards a sense of clarity? How can we move towards greater focus and attention and emotional regulation? Yeah, so there's absolutely a direct link between those things.
Yeah, I like how you do that with your writing, to where your patients, if they need you for something, and you obviously you have a life, you may not be able to help them in that moment.
Right.
They can go to that kind of like as a fail-safe.
And I can't remember everything all the time. I'm fallible as a human being.
Yeah.
So the more I write, the more I externalize all that information, then it puts less pressure.
But you may not remember any other day.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm the same way when I write. I get it, man.
So as much as I try to be the best therapist I can, I'm going to try to put it on paper so people really have that info.
Yeah. And do you see a difficulty in explaining that to your patients, that you are a fallible human being? Have you noticed? Or is that something that you even discuss?
I try to bring it up front. Maybe I have a degree in this piece of paper that says I studied psychology, but really the person across from you has gone through challenges himself, and I'm still going through life challenges, and it'll be never ending, but we can learn better coping mechanisms to help us through those life challenges and surround ourselves with good people that help us through those life challenges. and eat well and create a good routine for ourselves. And includes exercise and all of these things that allows us to get through those challenges. So,
because even before you were a counselor or before your patient was a patient, we were human beings. That's what we all started as, and that's how we're connected.
And I think that's the core of therapy too, because it allows people to come back to a sense of, it's not the labels. I'm not my trauma. I'm not my depression. I'm not my anxiety. I'm not who, this bully in middle school said I was. I am simply just another human being having an open conversation about my feelings and life with this other human being without any other labels and no judgment. Again, that's a rare interaction, unfortunately. It's a very rare interaction. And then with that, people can take that interaction and bring it to other people. So they're having real, genuine connections with everyone else. And that makes me tear up. It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah. You can kind of teach them how to do it in their life for other people. And it spreads.
It's about connection and genuine communication.
Yeah. Beautiful. Max, what advice would you give to someone who feels disconnected or is struggling to find clarity in their life?
It depends on maybe what side of the spectrum they're on. Is it more depressive symptoms or is it more anxious symptoms? If it's more depressive symptoms, then it's probably you need to get up and start a routine for yourself and kind of push yourself into gear a little bit more. Get a routine, get exercise. Your body wants to move and it's stagnant. As opposed to if there's anxiety and there's nervousness and my thoughts are racing, you probably need to stillness. You probably need to sit and rest a little bit more. And usually there's a balancing effect, if there's depression, move. If there's anxiety, learn how to calm. And it's not easy to do either usually, because these are patterns that have been deeply entrenched for very long periods of time, and that's why they're diagnosed things. There's this depression is here because it's a pattern that's been going on for a long period of time. This anxiety is here because it's a pattern that's been going on for a long period of time. Sometimes familially and generationally. It's generations back. Maybe this person's family has never actually slowed down. Maybe they've just been running and running and running.
No rest.
So no wonder you have anxious thoughts. You've been in survival mode, and your grandparents have been in survival mode forever. And so you're breaking the habits and creating another life for yourself. And that's the beautiful thing, is that people can actually create their own habits that allow them to be healthy. But it takes self-awareness and intentional practice.
And that goes back to the neuroplasticity we were discussing earlier.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Max, lastly, how do you personally define clarity, and how do you keep it as a central focus in your own life?
Clarity for me, somewhere along the line, I got obsessed with the word, and that's why I put it into my blog post. And I tend to use the word a lot. And it started out with a poem that I wrote maybe 6 years ago, and I used that word in it, and it just stuck.
Okay.
And I think I could equate it to maybe the Christian concept of grace, or the Tibetan Buddhist concept of ground of being. It's this state where there's a lack of obstructions. Again, it's not, I am not my labels. I'm not my job. I am not the father. I am not the son, whatever it is. I'm simply this flesh human being thing in a world that's connected to everything else in the world. That's part of this grand cosmic unfolding. And there's nothing getting in the way of that. It's pure experience.
Everything else is like fluff. All those labels and things you were saying.
The Buddhists literally call it illusion. We live in our head and we think we are those things, but it's a layer of separation between what we actually are and the world, which is a continuous stream. The thoughts get in the way of us being able to really live fully. So clarity is, again, getting rid of those obstructions, being able to see with clear vision. Maybe we can even break it down into specific details. Having a clear future vision, having physical clarity, feeling clear, loose, open in your body, feeling you're in your mind. And you can equate that maybe to like a pool of muddy water that's settled down to be clear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And the concept of grace that you mentioned is one that we talk about a lot in Bible studies, and because a lot of people do deal with these spiraling thoughts.
Very much.
And what my pastor teaches is put the word of God above your thoughts. When you start spiraling down that rabbit hole that a lot of all of us, tend to go down, just remember that God made you perfect, righteous, holy, pure, sanctified.
Yes. And
the work is done.
That's a beautiful thing. And those are mantras, and they remind you that you are okay the way you are. And the word holy is related to the word health and the word wholeness. They all come from the same root word.
That makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? So they all come back to the sense of I am connected with myself in my mind and body. I'm connected with the other person across from me. I'm connected with the room and the environment. I'm connected to life.
Nice.
It's that sense of wholeness.
I think that's a beautiful place to end. Max, I appreciate your time today.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Hey there. If you have made it this far, I want to thank you for watching the first episode of Good Fellowship. I know that in the video, I called the segment 10 questions, but I have since changed my mind. Good Fellowship is the official name for my interview segment here on Versed Well. I have a few people lined up already to participate in this segment, and I'm excited to go down this journalistic road. So be on the lookout for those interviews. And I want to thank Max for reminding us of the importance of finding clarity amidst life's noise. Through Clarity Sanctuary, Max offers a powerful invitation to rediscover purpose, authenticity, and connection in a world that often feels overwhelming. Max's insights challenge us to look inward and tap into the wisdom we all carry, equipping us to live more resilient and meaningful lives. Whether you're seeking mental clarity, spiritual connection, or tools for holistic wellness, Max's work is a beacon of hope and transformation. A huge thank you to Max for sharing his heart, his journey, and his mission with us today. To explore more of his work, visit maxkomes.com. That's MAXKOM as in Mary, ES. Or check out his writings on Substack at Clarity Sanctuary. Here's to finding clarity, purpose, and peace, one step at a time. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, stay versed, my friends.